Good morning and welcome to Cat Talks' reading vlog. It is April 13th. It's AM, very early morning. It is only 8 AM. And I will be getting back to you with my TBR for the week and with my goals for today, but first, breakfast. So according to this piece of paper, I have now passed four of my four of my Owls, some of which were not required. So I still need to take my Defense Against the Dark Arts, my arithmancy, and that's it. That's all I require. But I'm also obviously planning on doing O.W.L.s, so there is a bit more work to do left in the month. But my goals for the week, fair number in here. So obviously the first one is to finish reading O.W.L.s Chasm, which is my pick for Defense Against the Dark Arts. I am 20% of the way through. I would like to hit the end by the end of this week, fingers crossed. Then I really want to get my Care of Magical Creatures out of the way, and that is to read, I originally chose to read Hövding's Bäggare, which is a Swedish book about Halfdan and his many and numerous exploits, despite the fact that he is a cripple, because it has horses on the cover. However, given my recent lack of success with Imonens Hwen, which is a Swedish comic book that I am failing to read, I have also got a backup for this, which is Rebel of the Sands by Alwyn Hamilton. This is also has a horse right there. So if I can't get enough Swedish to read this one, then I can always rely on this one, which is in English. However, I am going to try and do the Swedish one as my owl, just because like I said before, I really need to focus up on my Swedish. Then, of course, we have Imonens Hwen. This is my pick for arithmancy, which is read a book by more than one author. I'm really struggling with this because it isn't actually in childish or easy to read Swedish. It's actually in adult Swedish and it's really hard. And for example, there are words like knotted string and turds of grass, and yeah, it's going well. But luckily I have friends who are Swedish, obviously, so they can support me while I'm reading this, and hopefully I will actually have finished this week. I know I said that last week. My last physical book that I want to read this week is Illumine, which is my pick for divination, which is a book set in the future. This is a book, I don't remember when it's set, but it is set in the future, so no in your face. I have been told this is a really fast read, like a day-long read, so hopefully, fingers crossed, I will be able to finish it this week and still finish the hefter that is O.W.L.s Chasm. Today, which is Saturday, my goals are to read and finish this. I hope you aren't lying about it being an easy read. Read and finish this, and read and finish this. And then also get another 10% through O.W.L.s Chasm. Now that is a lot of reading. Like, that's a lot of pages. This is a lot of Swedish. This is a lot of reading. So, I don't know. 10% isn't that much. It is 70 pages, so hopefully I will be able to manage that. But it is still a lot of reading when you consider the other two books, so I might have to push some of this to tomorrow. But this is my goal for today, so let's see. I also have to film 3 videos today because I'm batching some of my videos for when I am in England. I don't want to not upload anything for you guys because you guys are obviously my best friends, but I also don't want to film in England because I don't know if I will find the time, the resources, the bookshelf, you know, that kind of thing. I am, of course, obviously going to continue my read along with my father, which we are reading Daisy Jones and the Six together, and he is setting the pace, so that isn't really on my kind of like week TBR because I think that's going to be on a lot of TBRs for the future, but it is still there, so don't forget that. And I'm going to try and read an arc from NetGalley this week as well, which is a graphical novel called Blossoms in Autumn. If this is a contemporary, which I think it is based on the description, then this will be my pick for Muggle studies. If not, then I will be picking Fangirl. One of my comments was to read Carry On first, so we'll see. Also, it is my birthday on Tuesday. And my current employer sent me these lovely flowers to say happy birthday, and aren't they just so beautiful? In yellow and red. Hi guys, it is Sunday night, it is 8 PM. I'm sorry I didn't check in with you last night, but I was fairly tired. I managed to get through half of Illumine yesterday and I actually finished it today. Wow, the plotline of this book is so much fun. Everyone is always talking about the mixed media and not so much about the plot, but I have to say it was a fun read. Now, I'm questioning whether those things could have happened, and not because of the science, but because of exactly how good people think an 18-year-old hacker actually is. I mean, I'm a programmer. Trust me when I say that, like, these things don't come to you in the womb for most people. And I'm a pretty gifted programmer. I really enjoyed this. This was definitely, I think, a 4 or 5 stars. I think it's probably a 5. I'm definitely picking up the second book in the series because I have to know what happens now. The twist at the end was really fun. I definitely saw it coming, or suspected. I mean, not actually the actual twist, but something similar. And yes, I'm really excited. I'm kind of amazed that I've never picked up a Amy Kaufman or a J. Kristoff book before, because I've heard that they're pretty big, particularly J. Kristoff on booktube, so I'm glad that I finally experienced the majesty that is these two at work together. So yeah, I had a great reading day. I mean, most of it was spent inside this, much to my partner's disquiet, and I was telling him all about the various things that were happening, and I was ranting about the mixed media because I think that was so well done and so revolutionary. But yes, this is now complete, which means I am 1 owl down for the week already. In comparison with this success, I have only failures to report from here on out. So obviously I did set myself the goal of reaching 50% of To Write O.W.L.s Chasm today. Poof. This did not happen. The green marker is 50%. The bookmark is where I am. I have barely moved since yesterday. I have read 2 or 3 chapters. I am still enjoying it, but I didn't want to carry Lumine files to work because my back exists and I didn't want to torment it. So I'm definitely going to be continuing to take this on the bus and not this behemoth. Yeah, it is getting better. I mean, the main character is still perfect in Kvothe, and I hated Kvothe, so let's see if I will hate this one. But I am enjoying the story and the world building and the characters, and I'm just really intrigued to see where it goes. So yes, I read only a couple of pages, maybe 14 or 15 pages of this today. Also, I'm obsessed with lining my books up on the bookshelf now that I actually have a bookshelf, so get used to it, I guess. And finally, another failure. I didn't pick this up once. Well, I mean, I did, clearly, because I have picked it up right now, but I didn't open it once. Yeah, I'm going to try and set myself the goal of reading it this week anyway. I mean, I already have, but like, commit to it. I might open it immediately after filming this. I'm not going to do that. I really want to get this finished. I did renew it because I had to renew all of these, which I haven't read yet, because the library is closed on Thursday and Friday, and we are flying on Saturday morning, so I wanted to make sure that I didn't have any, fees. So I am going to try and read this before Thursday, which is when all the library books that I am giving back have to be back. I'm just not that excited to pick it up, to be honest, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to soldier through. And yeah, so Illumine was my divination prompt, so I am now 5 of 12 owls down for the month. We are not quite at halfway, which means I am on target, not including all of the books I need to read that weren't part of my owls pick. Hello everyone, I just thought I'd catch up with you today while I do some mending, because I have some mending to do. So obviously I was at work today, nothing really exciting happened there, except I ate lunch. That depends on your definition of exciting, I suppose. I had pasta and meatballs, which I had previously cooked on Friday, and tonight we are also having meat and pasta, but a different kind of meat and a different kind of pasta, so hopefully it's all fine. I still haven't hit my target of 350 pages into To Write O.W.L.s Chasm. I haven't quite finished my goal yet, but I'm very close. The little green one is my goal for the day. So that's not too bad. And last night I managed to read half, or up to halfway, not half, but up to halfway of my own personal struggle, which is, of course, Immortals When, the comic book I chose for a book written by more than one person, which is arithmancy. Steady away on that one now. Not quite as intimidating once you get used to the language, but it's written in kind of like an oldie-worldy Swedish, because obviously the events are supposed to be happening during the oldie-worldy times. I actually was Googling it, because it doesn't exist in Goodreads. I believe it's based on a long saga called Saga om Isfolket, which has a lot of this kind of like werewolves and magic and witches and all that. So I suppose there's lots of comic books. There's over 30 comic books, I think, based on this Lady's Tales, which is really good. I think she's a lady. I didn't actually look it up that much, clearly. I won't be buying any more of them because I really didn't like the art style, to be honest. But I still find it quite interesting that there is this longer tale if I wanted to check out an actual book. And it makes me wonder, because the same was true of Rydde Orm, which is the book I read last month in Swedish. That one was also based on a much longer, old-worldy Swedish book. So it makes me think, like, I wonder how good I'd have to be at Swedish to read their sources. Sorry, the eye contact's not much. I have to focus up. So what I'm doing here is I'm just joining together the completely ruined sleeves of a jumper that I quite like, because I've ripped it a little bit to shreds. But I really like this jumper, like it's really cozy. It's much cozier than my yellow one. And yes, I did rip it a long time ago, because you probably haven't ever seen me wear this jumper, to be honest. If you have, let me know, but I don't think you have. So yeah, I'm just doing wrong side to wrong side, and then I'll do it again once it's all signed up, just to make sure with another round. Yesterday I repaired a coat pocket because I had lost the keys to my apartment on Friday. When I left the office, I realised I didn't have the keys. And I was like, where have they gone? Where have they gone? And then I felt them in the lining of my coat. So they'd fallen through a hole, which I hadn't known was there in the pocket. And it ended up in the lining of my coat. So I fixed that yesterday. But since I had the needle now, since I went and bought a needle and thread, because I didn't know where to buy them before, but now I know 2 places to buy them from in town. I have the needle and thread now. I thought, you know what, I'm going to mend a thing a day. Don't worry, I won't make you watch me mending a thing a day, probably. But this today is this coat. I've got a bit of a rasp in my voice. I don't know if I'm getting sick or not, but I had to run for the bus and a bit of an asthma attack on the bus. I actually really need to go to a doctor here because I still don't have an inhaler. And I've been here over 6 months now, just about. So probably best to get an inhaler before I die. And last time I had the flu, which was over a year ago now. But when I had the flu, I went to the doctors and I said, oh yeah, I've also run out of my inhaler and I've got the flu, by the way. Or actually, I had just recovered from the flu. I said, I had the flu last week and I just really wanted you to look me over because I'm still very dizzy and weak, and it's been over a week. Week. And it's been over a week and, you know, it's affecting my ability to work. She was so angry with me. But I kind of like that because I like doctors that won't lie to you about how they're feeling. But she was just so cross and she said, you could have died. When you have the flu, as a normal adult, you're not supposed to go to the hospital. So that was the advice I followed. But obviously when you've got asthma, you're more at risk, so you can actually just die of the flu, which I didn't really consider reason to go. But luckily I didn't die, as you can see, or probably in a parallel universe I did, but not in this one. But it turns out that, yeah, asthma is a serious disease that you should treat with respect and not just bugger about with. So as you can clearly see by the fact that I'm still not breathing right and I'm still not talking right, I should go get an inhaler. It's pretty much the gist of it. So when we get back from the UK, I need to make a dentist appointment and a doctor's appointment and get an inhaler and get them to actually look at my teeth. Because I don't know if you guys know, but over Christmas, I had to go to an emergency dentist to get my teeth looked at. I often have to do that because I've got quite weak teeth. And they couldn't figure out what was causing the immense pain every time I spoke or like smiled. So what they did was just like shorten the tooth so it didn't catch on the other teeth, but it still hurts. It's just less often because it doesn't catch on the other teeth. So I'm gonna have to go get that checked out by an actual dentist and not an emergency response unit at some point. But they didn't say I had to, so I didn't. Also, that appointment was entirely in Swedish, which was really, or not entirely in Swedish, but like majority was in Swedish. They had to go to English with some of the phrases because I don't know what mouthwash is in Swedish. Of course, my partner would have come, but he was at work at the time, so he couldn't. But yes, I do need to make some appointments and stop being lazy about it, really. Otherwise, I could die. It's a bit melodramatic when you say it like that, but I could, I suppose. If I really put my mind to it. It is Tuesday, it is my birthday. This is the second time I'm recording this vlog update because my Mac failed while saving the recording. So yay! So I guess my first update for you will be this honking of a book, To Ride Hell's Chasm. I am now 70% of the way through. My goal was to hit 75, which is another 30 pages, but I just didn't have it in me so far, and we're going out for birthday dinner, so probably won't be hitting my goal for the day, but you never know. I'm still not really enjoying this. Like, it's kind of interesting, and it's obviously interesting enough not to DNF. The fact that it is my required reading for my defense O.W.L.s notwithstanding. Sorry, I'm just going to check we're still recording. The main character is too perfect. Everything he sees, he's seen it before, he knows the answer to it, he can protect anyone from it that he loves or likes or has met before, but people we have not met before will die horribly and painfully because obviously we don't care about them because we don't know their names. He's obviously trained in a martial art that means that he has perfect control over his body most of the time. He's got a tortured past, people are racist towards him. He's just a perfect anti-hero, or hero, because he also obeys orders without question and will hold an oath to death and never lies. So what I'm saying is this dude is too perfect, and it's kind of boring because you know he's going to face any challenge and like overcome it. And the princess, who the novel is also about, is who's on the run. The author draws attention several times to the fact that she's not spoiled at all despite being a princess, and she like never questions anyone, and the author takes great pains to tell you about how this princess is different from other women and other people in the court, and how she's like so clever and inquisitive and doesn't like shirk from hard things, and even though she's exhausted she's helping with the firewood. And it's like, yeah, but if she wasn't, we'd still respect her because she's freaking exhausted and been on the run for her life. So yeah, author, bad job with the characters in this, honestly. The magic system is also kind of weird and not really understood and not really explained. The main character doesn't even know how it works half the time, and I don't know. This is a low 3 stars for me at best at the moment. Nothing is really explained. I mean, there's a glossary at the back, but if you have to do the majority of your world building in the back of the book in a glossary, you have not done a good job with world building. Like, sure, have a glossary in the back to augment the world building, but you should be able, I mean, most books I can read, including City of Brass, I could read that and understand, even though I'd never heard the term Deva before, or Iniquit. Anyway, I could understand, you know, fire demon good guy. I'm there for it. Infrit. This, you know, just terms thrown out everywhere, and none of the magic is explained, really, except for in the glossary at the back, and I'm not feeling this. This, as an epic fantasy, I can see why this isn't talked about much, but I'm going to finish it. I am going to finish it. I'm so bad at DNFing books. The second book that I wanted to tell you that I actually finished last night is I Månens Sken. I finally faced my fears of the archaic Swedish in this one and was able to finish it. I didn't really understand what was going on for most of it, and honestly that's not just because of the Swedish. I asked my partner to help me, and they were also quite confused by some of the words. Kind of like went off on this big tangent for no reason, and I just didn't enjoy this one. It was meh. I'm not going to review it on Goodreads, mainly because it doesn't exist on Goodreads, but even if it did, I probably wouldn't, just because I have no idea if my understanding of the Swedish impacted the novel. I don't think it did. There were quite stereotypical characters in here, including a woman who was like, nobody wants me, and falls in love with like the most available man in town, and then has to settle for being married with someone else, and then is perfectly happy, of course, because someone wanted her, I guess. I didn't enjoy this. Like I said, I gave it 2 stars personally, but I'm not going to rate it officially, and I'm not going to be picking up any more in this series. And then finally, I also finished a book this afternoon when I got back from work. I finished Blossoms in Autumn, which is my pick for Muggle Studies. This one was a super quick read. I think I read it in less than 40 minutes. And it was just a sweet story about 2 old people meeting and falling in love. It did have a bit of an unrealistic ending, which had me Googling, and it was left very unfinished. There wasn't really that much of a story other than cute people meeting in love, falling in love. There is quite graphic, well, not graphic scenes of sex, I mean there's no like vulvas or anything, but there are 2 people getting it on quite explicitly through the pages, which I found fine. I mean, it didn't really pique my interest, and it was kind of gratuitous to the plot. They could have easily drawn a black curtain, but I didn't find it distasteful. I'd probably give this a 3 or 4 stars. The diversity was really nice to see, in that it was older people falling in love, and they did face some criticism from their children over that fact. And overall, it was okay. So today is Wednesday, the 17th of April. I almost worked late today, but I didn't. So I thought I'd just give you a quick update on the monstrosity of 700 pages that is To Ride Hell's Chasm. This is my pick for Defense Against the Dark Arts, the prompt for which is Reducto, a reader book with R in the title. I hate this book. Hate is a strong word, but for this book, it's vaguely justified. So I have been rolling my eyes all day. Everything I read, I'm literally like, yeah, of course he's like super awesome. Yeah, sure, he can do that. Yeah, I despise this character, main character, and the author's way of writing, both about characters and about women in particular. So like, I'm just going to flip to a random page and give you an example of what her writing is like. Crushed under pressure, the porcelain gave way. The prince hurled the fragments onto the tray, his face turned away to mask bursting anguish as a servant stepped in to staunch his gasped palm on a napkin. The seneschal sighed. Kind-hearted beneath his thick crust of propriety, he cleared his throat and expressed sympathy. Your straits are understandably difficult, your highness. Yet Eisenduhn's officers are scarcely incompetent. Tuscan has never failed Cecily's crown. His intelligence cannot be faulted. We may not know Captain Mishkael is one of us, but his triumph at last summer's tourney was a feat of spectacular skill. The commons have granted him sharp respect. They will answer his questions where, truth to tell, your polished lowlanders might awe them to self-conscious silence. Nobody talks like this. Nobody. Sorry, I've shifted this way with my, distaste of the book as I push it away from myself. But I am on page 643, which means I only have 60 pages to go until, in fact less I think, because most of that is glossary. I've got about 36 pages to go. So I should really finish it today. But I really don't want to. I struggled to read this on the bus. Now I did read it on the bus because I have the self-discipline of Albus Dumbledore himself. No, that's not a good example. Minerva McGonagall herself, or Severus Snape himself, and can force myself to do anything, but I am not enjoying this book. I would not recommend it. I think it's probably going to be a 2-star. The world was really kind of cool, but the magic isn't explained, the main character's too perfect, everything that comes up to him he can obviously defeat, and the man's wounded in several places and he just continues limping on because that's his duty or whatever. You see, I'm rolling my eyes just talking about it. I cannot with this book, seriously. If you loved it, more power to you, but I really like thick, epic fantasies, even standalones, or especially standalones, I guess, because I forget to pick up sequels, to be quite honest with you. And I'm just really disappointed with this one. However, on a brighter note, I have picked up my Care of Magical Creatures. So this is my pick, as I said, for Care of Magical Creatures, the prompt for which is to have a land animal on the cover, and I have horses! Yeah, that's probably really blurry, but this is a Swedish book. It is a middle grade book. It is quite short. It's only 100 and odd pages, 113. It's quite light, even though it's hardback. Sorry. It's quite light, even though it's hardback. I'm really enjoying it. I've mostly been reading a chapter per teeth brushing at the moment, so I'm 2 chapters in. So I read it last night and then I read it again this morning. But yes, I really enjoy this. I remembered now that the character wasn't born a cripple. He actually crippled himself while sailing with his father. Chapter 2, guys, no spoilers. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to finishing this off before our trip on Saturday. And obviously, when I get back, I then have the second in the series, Fremlingen's Grav, to read if I get bored of doing my O.W.L.s, but probably I won't. So after this, I think this is the last physical book I have to read, and then it's all ebooks or arcs. So I have an e-arc of Changing of the Guards, which I need to read because it came out in first of this month, I think. I also have The Bells, which is herbology. So Changing of the Guards is charm work, The Bells is herbology, Defiant Air is for potions because that is the sequel to The Tethered Mage. And I think that might be it. So yeah, not that many books to go before I hit all of my 12 of my O.W.L.s, and then I have my reading preferences for myself again. So I might pick up... Oh, bugger. Forgot about this one. And I haven't made any progress whatsoever in Daisy Jones and the Six, and the goal, I will try and read this on Friday, which was the last day I'll be vlogging, because we need to fly on Saturday and I want to be up to date at least on that day, so if we meet I can talk about it with him. And yes, this cover is beautiful. And yes, I did choose this cover to match my father's copy. Hello my lovelies, it is Thursday night. It is the last day of the working week because obviously it is Easter weekend, which is really exciting. I actually managed to do something before I left work as well, which was 10 out of 10. I committed some of the changes I was working on for someone else to have a look at, so that was really exciting, and people were really excited by what I did and interested and proud. So yes, I had a really good day, even if it was very stressful. And I'm just recovering from a headache, so I've had a lot of painkillers and now I am fine, I think. So we're just waiting for our burgers to come, and yes, I know we had burgers on Tuesday. Look, it's my birthday week, okay? Alright, so on to the exciting updates. My Defense Against the Dark Arts prompt is completed. I have now passed my Defense Against the Dark Arts OWL by finishing this ridiculous 700-page book, and I'm totally counting this towards the Topple Your TBR. Topple TBR? Anyway, I didn't know that thing was coming up, but this was 700 pages, which definitely counts. Skip to this time if you want to avoid spoilers. Okay, so essentially, the ending is wrapped up so neatly and so weirdly, and I really didn't like it. It was one of those things where out of the blue someone will come with all of the answers and it's very neat and tidy, and someone wakes up I just didn't believe it. So essentially what happened was there were these winged predators these things that were like threatening the princess, and also there was a magic that no one had ever seen before, the 10th Lord of Hell. And no one knew how to counter this sorcerer, no one even knew he existed. And the main character warrior, his wife or fiance, was driven mad by another sorcerer, and she's royal, but no one could figure out how to fix her. And obviously the group of shamans that just happen to be hiding in the gorge when our main character goes through with the princess know how to defeat the demon from the other 10th hell, know how to like fix the warrior, and and organize the princess's marriage like magically. Like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not reading another Jenny Words books, because this was so huge, it was written so flowery, and honestly the ending just didn't make sense. So no. But I did finish it, so I am now a certified Defense Against the Dark Arts practitioner in my owls. Alright, so because I finished that book, I needed to pick up another book. So of course I picked up my Care of Magical Creatures. This is Høvdings Beggere, which is the Halfdan Viking series. This has recently been turned into a movie, I think, so I wanted to do a quick reread of this middle grade book and make sure that I didn't forget anything. Now, I flew through this. I read pretty much all of it today. I read 2 chapters yesterday while I was brushing my teeth, or maybe the day before. I am so impressed by myself and by my reading speed in Swedish. Admittedly, only middle grade Swedish. I haven't tried any adult works, and I'm fairly sure that if I did, it would be slow AF. But I am so proud of myself for reading this and for understanding like a huge majority of it. So the first time I read it was quite slow. I had to look up a lot of words. This time I only looked up a handful of words like that tripped me up. For example, min means mine, but it can also mean expression. So I was really confused by a sentence before I realized that min was also a noun. But this book is really funny. It's kind of like a very simple plot, but it's very fun. It's very easy to follow, and I just really enjoyed it. I didn't explain what Rydhal's Chasm was, and I'm not going to. So this book follows Halfdan, the Viking, who has become tragically injured in an accident, which means he can't be a Viking, like Raider, and 2 cities on either side of a bridge. One side is the Christian town. They are very clean, they are Christian, they are also very rich, and they have a king. And on the other side of the bridge there is a village instead of a town, even though they're the same size, and they are Vikings, so they believe in Odin and Thor, and they have a chieftain, or chief, Høvding, instead of a king. So the king invites the chief over for a battle of wits and bets a lot of things, which the Høvding also does, on who will win, but he has craftily changed a lot of the challenges, and after our hero discovers this, he has to find a way to warn the king and win back his village's honour. It's very short, I really enjoyed it. I have book 2 lined up on the shelves ready to go, which I'm definitely going to pick up after the holiday. Yeah, I would recommend this if you are looking to read Swedish, to learn Swedish, or if you are learning Swedish in fact. It's a really sweet read, and the drawings actually are exactly as they are described in the book. Let me choose an early one. So if you don't understand something, you can look at the drawing, and that will give you kind of like an example of what's going on. So this is quite early in the book, and for example, if you didn't know that hugg I luften med släggan was that he was holding up a hammer, then you have it right there. So yeah, definitely recommend this series. It is by Martin Widmark and illustrated by Matt Vennehem. Then on the bus home, I'd obviously finished Høvdings Beggere, so I picked up my herbology challenge. This was the bells, which everyone knows what it's about. It is about a society where you are born grey with red eyes, which is very unbeautiful, and then there are certain people who are born I don't know how often they're born, but there are certain people or a certain family who are able to make you beautiful. That is to transform your skin, your hair colour, your eye colour, your shape. I'm only 4% of the way through, which is chapter 2. I don't know what page number this is because it's Kindle. Currently I'm just quite confused by the world building. I think I need a break from fantasy because I have kind of only chosen fantasy, and I think Rydhal's Chasm sort of wore me out for world building and constantly guessing at what's going on, which there is a lot of in the first couple of chapters of the bells so far, or the first chapter and a half. But I will continue on and finish the bells just because I really want to. And then either I will pick up The Defiant Heir, which is the second book in Melissa Caruso's series, The Tethered Mage. Obviously that is a little easier for me to read because I recently read The Tethered Mage. There isn't as much world building. I understand kind of the vague plots and how the magic works. But I might also pick up a contemporary that is not on my list for owls, just because I want something kind of normal and steady way, and just, yeah, something chill to read in between all of the fantasies, because my brain is getting a bit fantasy sick. On that note, I have finally caught up to my father in Taylor Jenkins Reid's Daisy and the Six. Daisy Jones and the Six, sorry. This is about Daisy Jones and the Six, which are two singers or bands. The Six is a band, Daisy Jones is a singer, and they have just collaborated on their first piece of music at the point where I have stopped reading. There is quite a lot of overt sex, drugs and rock and roll in these books, and so it makes it a little awkward that I am buddy reading it with my father, but we are both enjoying it so far, so I'm looking forward to having a chat with him, possibly on camera, on what he thought about the book, as someone who lived through the 70s rock music. So it is the last day of the vlog, so I'm here to do a quick wrap up before we get started finishing packing and tidying the house and things before our trip. So this week I read a lot of books for my owls. I read Illumine, To Ride Hell's Chasm, I Månens Sken, which is the comic book in Swedish, and Hövdingsbägare, which was a children's book in Swedish. And I am 30% of my way through The Bell. So that is 4 and a bit of my owls finished in 1 week. I'm so... Oh, and Muggle Studies. So that was actually 5 and a bit owls I finished this week. I finished my Muggle Studies, which was a Blossoms in Autumn. So I'm really chuffed with this week and how it turned out. It was also my birthday, so that's really exciting. And yeah, it's just been an absolutely amazing week. I've given you my thoughts on the books as they have come and gone. I will say I am enjoying The Bells. I'm going to do a book diary of The Bells so that you have something more specific. So if you've read it, you can watch that and see my reactions to various things. And if you haven't read it, then don't watch it because it will be chock full of spoilers. Alright, that is it from me. I hope you guys have an absolutely amazing week. I don't know if I'll be vlogging next week, but I will try to at least a few times get my face out there so you have something to watch on Sunday. And I nearly said stay sexy and don't get murdered, but that's a different thing. Keep well and safe, kittens. Enjoy your reading life, and I hope you have something good to read. I hope you have something great to read this week. Bye!